principles, objectives, strategies, tactics. Ideology, principles, objectives, strategies, and tactics.
Ideology, we speaking of ideas. So ideology and ideas, you know what I'm saying? Ideology, the way you think, which also, of course, the way you think is going to control the way you act.
Alright, what we're going to discuss today is ideological training. Now, all motion is not progress. You don't know your history, you're doing repeat ideological training. When we're speaking correct ideology, we know that ideology is the way you think, and the way you think control the way that you act. Your actions, your acts, your thinking, ideology and principles. Your acts, your objectives, your strategies, and your tactics. Ideology, principles, objectives, strategy, and tactics. So it's the way you think controls the way that you act. What is ideology? Ideology is the way you think. It's your culture. It's an entire system of things. It's a system of thinking. We come from Egyptian spiritual cultivation. You know, we come from very, I would say, and since we've been in captivity by simplicity, I would say that we come from a very complex system of things that we are used to. Okay? So ideology is the way you think. It's your culture, it's an entire thing. Why is ideology important? Because the way you think, obviously, of course, controls the way that you act. The way that you act is going to lead to actions, and those actions are going to continue to enhance, control, and or alter the way that you think. As in, if you keep on acting a certain way, you will obviously keep thinking that way. What's correct ideology? Obviously, we want an ideology of liberation. We want an ideology of nation building. We want an ideology that gives us a higher cultural esteem. One of the things we must realize is we were, as African people throughout the diaspora, we are people that before we were in the diaspora in the levels that we are today, we have been in the diaspora in many ways. We were in, and you can see our influence or our effect upon people culturally, spiritually. You can see as far as the Harappans or the people of India and Hindu, you can see as the Nation of Islam will say, the Asiatic black man. You can see these our influences throughout the world. You can see our influences throughout Italy. We know that Greece eventually came to Egypt, but we're speaking on times before these times. We know that there are step pyramids and the mounds and things in the northern hemisphere, or what they call today North America, South America, and Central America. So we know we've had relationships with these people before now. So when we say having a higher cultural esteem, we know when you look at the pyramids that we've built, we know that we've erected not only buildings and structures, but complex systems of thinking, systems of divine thinking. So again, ideology of liberation, an ideology of nation building, and an ideology gives you a higher cultural esteem, nation building. Alright? Some people think that a certain group of people may own the idea of having a nation, or of having your own country, and these types of things. And of course, we come from the very first people on the earth, and we come from the very first nations upon the earth. It's just like with the nations that were here, the Anishinaabe people. They had nations. They had nation states. They like to try to say, well, they were in tribes. We don't mind saying we were in tribes. We don't mind saying we have a tribe, except they've given a tribe a negative connotation, so you think you're speaking on a primitive people. When we know that tribes have very complex systems with chieftains, elders, rites of passage, these types of things. So like I said, ideology of nation building, and higher cultural esteem. What we really want to get to with ideological training, of course, is the ideology of liberation. If you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it. Historically speaking, Africa was in a position unifying. Africa was in a position of unifying itself. Alright, we have Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. And we know that there was beginning to be a merger of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. If anyone else has studied the history, they know that Songhai, Mali, Ghana, these were empires. These are when we speak on Western Africa, we're speaking of gigantic. I need my chalkboard, so I need to be able to draw and show. When we speak of, if anybody, if you know Africa in your head, you know that whole chunk of that western side to what would be the Sahara Desert. Now we'll get to the Sahara Desert, and we can obviously see the level of civilization and how old the level of civilization is in Africa, that you began to create a desert. But again, like I said, Western Hemisphere, Eastern, the merger of Ethiopia, a lot of Ethiopia is what gave the Egyptians the hieroglyphics and some of the building of the columns and these things that you see associated with the pyramids and the sphinxes and these initiation temples, because that's what they are. They like to consider them burial sites, but we know that they are initiation temples. They were university schools. You know, they were things that of that nature. So again, ideology of liberation, we must know our history or we'll be doomed to repeat it. Africa was in a position of unifying itself. Southern Africa. Okay? Now, as time went on, of course there were different invasions, and we can't, that's the way the world was. We'll just put it like that and just say that people were invading other people. We have been invaded by many people. But we know that with the biggest detriment to our invasion, because it took, say, Asians 3,000 years. When we speak on, I can't recall if it's the Syrians or Persians, but we know that the Asiatic, the Indo-Asian or that type of invasions and fighting was happening to Africa and Egypt and these types of things. But we were in a unifying process. And we know that one of the most detrimental, because of the racial aspects that came along, was European colonialism, which brought about slavery. In Africa we have colonialism, and we had also, they of course tried to force Africans on the continent of Africa to work as well. But then we know about the extraction of the youth, of our strongest, to come and help build up someone else's culture. Because as we know, what do the youth do? The youth go to the universities. The youth end up learning. The youth are the ones that invent things, develop things. The youth keep the society moving forward. They are the next generation. So we had entire generations taken out of Africa and brought over to the western parts of the world. Britain, okay, throughout the Caribbean, and what is today North, Central, and South America. Another aspect